Hey, this is Mr. Wilson with a quick tutorial about coverage. Coverage is a cinematographic or film or video term describing the way that a scene is shot with a variety of angles and using a variety of distances to cover the scene entirely. So you have more options when putting together the scene. Now, oftentimes we'll talk about it in scripted productions, but today we're going to talk about how news pieces also need to use coverage. Let's take a look at a student news piece that, again, is not a bad example of a news piece, but their coverage had something to be desired. Let's take a look.
On September 17, 2014, it was revealed to the world that Tacoma Park Middle School math teacher Sarah Manchester won $1 million on the famous game show Wheel of Fortune.
Okay, so what is wrong with this shot? Everyone should be able to tell me the main problem is headroom. Also, is he centered in the shot? No, he's off to the side, which would be okay if this were a profile shot, but he's looking at the camera, so really he should be right in the middle. Here's their first piece of B-roll, which is Miss Manchester on the actual Wheel of Fortune, which is great. They got that online, and that's a really nice piece of B-roll. Here's their second piece of B-roll. It's Miss Manchester at the board. A little bit too much headroom, but that's not that big of a deal. Here's their third piece of B-roll. Whenever you're using any image, you want every frame of that image to be good. We cut to this piece of B-roll, and what do we see? We see a wall with the top of someone's head. So right off the bat, this is not a good piece of B-roll. Let's take a look. Yeah, not very well framed. It's a pan across the classroom, and then we cut away from it. Now, the last frame is not quite as bad as that first frame, but it's still pretty bad. And also, we're cutting away during movement, and we never want to do that. It's a little bit jarring. Let's take a look at the end of that shot again. We're panning, and we're going to cut away while the camera is still moving. Boom. That's not so good. So that was not a very good pan across the classroom. Now we have Miss Manchester in front of the class. However, she's standing in front of her Promethean board, so we've got some backlighting problems here. That was not a horrible shot, but not great either. Now, here we got the next piece of B-roll, and it's Miss Manchester at the board. Again, we've already seen this, haven't we? We shouldn't see it twice. You shouldn't use the same piece of B-roll twice. Now, it's a little bit different because we can see that she's added some nines to this big long 9 number, but really it's the same image. Now, this is not a very exciting piece of B-roll, so it was kind of not the greatest thing to begin with. We definitely don't want to go back to it. They used it for 7 seconds the first time, which was a bit too long. 7 seconds of her at the board, a little too long, I'd say. Not way too long, but a little bit too long. Let's see how long they use this. We're at 106. Now we should all know that 10 seconds is the maximum. 10 seconds of this would be way too much. Oh, there's 10 seconds. We just passed the 10-second mark, and we're still going. Oh, we can see that this is not very exciting. Let's see. Oh, we got to the 20-second mark, and we're still going. Oh dear, this is way too long. Don't tell me they're going to hit 30 seconds. Oh, they did. They hit 30 seconds. And not only that, at the very end, the framing isn't great to begin with, but then this part, whoa, what was that? They use 30 seconds of that shot, and that's way too much. The framing isn't that good. It's not very exciting, and the end of it has a horrible tilt up for no reason. Here's the next piece of B-roll. Does it look familiar? Looks familiar to me. A pan across your classroom, first of all, isn't the greatest piece of B-roll, but it's okay as long as we do it right. But if we don't do it right, we could see that that wasn't very good. But they're going to do it again. Well, maybe they do it better this time. Let's take a look. It's not starting well. Ooh, there's another top of the head. Oh dear. Oh, more ceiling and wall, tops of heads. Oh, that's really nice right there. And again, we're going to cut on movement, which is never something we want to do. We cut on movement. How many of you caught that? Let's take a look at it again. Okay, if you didn't catch it, flash. We never want to flash the viewer like that. They got this piece of B-roll from online, and it cuts to 2 frames, 1, 2 of this. Now if we slow it down, it's easy to see, but if we haven't slowed it down, it's just a flash. Bang! That's a flash. We don't want to see that. We should be looking at our edits over and over. There should be many eyes on the computer as we're editing. So that should never be part of your production. A flash of black or a flash of video that does not belong. Never have a flash of anything like that in your video. Okay, so this is not a horrible news piece, but they certainly could have done better. Now, we're going to take a look first at if we did have a pan of Miss Manchester's classroom, how would that look? First of all, we would want to frame it. Frame it well so that the very first frame looked good. How does this first frame look? Pretty good. It's well framed. We also wouldn't want to start moving right away. We would want to start with a static shot. At the end of our shot, if we're going to pan, we're going to want to hold our shot there too. So let's take a look. Slow, smooth pan, hold, and then we cut. Okay, much better pan. So if you're going to have something like that, that's how you should do it. And what is this? This is a still image of the Wheel of Fortune. This is another thing that many people can get. If you don't have a lot of B-roll, get some still images from online. Mr. DeGasperis has pictures of Tacoma Park events. So if you're doing the turkey trot and you don't have good footage of the winners, maybe you could get a picture from Mr. DeGasperis or online where he stores them. Or if you're doing a news piece like this, the Wheel of Fortune, you could have this picture, or this picture, or this picture. If you had this picture, by the way, you wouldn't want these black borders, so you'd go here, pick transform, you get these dots, and you'd widen it out. That doesn't look bad at all. It doesn't look distorted. Really, we don't know that the other one was a little bit less wide. Obviously, you would not want to do it to this picture, because if you did transform this picture, it would look very distorted. That does not look like the Wheel of Fortune at all. So you wouldn't want to do that. You'd have these black borders, but that's okay because the background is black anyway. You could use this picture. You could use this picture. I think you get the idea. Also, you'd want as many different types of close-ups, insert shot type of close-ups as possible. Let's say you were doing a news piece on Mr. Wilson's class or the Multimedia Club or Wake Up Tacoma. This is the type of B-roll you'd want. A nice static shot of all of this equipment. That's nice. Here are the clipboards in Mr. Wilson's room. Nice. Here's the video production grading rubric in Mr. Wilson's room. That looks good. Here are the folders in Mr. Wilson's room with all of the fieldwork sheets and pre-production sheets, storyboards, and instructions. Here's a shot of a computer with Final Cut on it. Nice, static, well-composed shot. Here's a picture of the storyboard on Mr. Wilson's classroom. Nice, static shot. Here's a shot of Mr. Wilson's production flowchart and a script example on his wall. Well-composed, static shot. Here's a shot of some cameras in Mr. Wilson's room. Well-composed, static shot. Now here we're going to see some examples of the same types of images, except more what a student would usually get. Here's that video production rubric from farther away. Is it well composed? Not really. Can we read it? Not really. This is not the greatest shot. If you got this, it would be okay, but this is a much better shot of that poster. I think we can all agree. Here's another shot of those folders on the wall. I think we can see this is not nearly as well composed as this. Here's a shot of Mr. Wilson's cabinet. There's some movement back and forth. That does not look very good, not nearly as good as this. Here are the shots of the posters on Mr. Wilson's wall, panning back and forth of these posters. That looks horrible and ugly. Okay, so this is about coverage. When you go on a news piece, you want to get as many different shots as possible. Insert shots of as many things as possible. Close-ups, well composed, usually static. If you have movement, it should be slow and controlled. You should have a static shot at the beginning. Hold, compose, move, hold, compose. That's how any camera movement should happen. You should avoid camera movement unless you absolutely need it. I don't think we really need a pan of Miss Manchester's classroom. We could just have a shot of it, but if you needed to pan, I showed you in the beginning how to do it. You can also always get images from online if you do not have enough B-roll, because you want to have a lot of B-roll. It's all about coverage. The more you have, the better choices you can make. If you only have 4 pieces of B-roll, well, you're going to have to use all 4, even if they're all cruddy, because you have to have at least 4 pieces. If you have 20 pieces of B-roll, you're going to be able to pick the very best ones. If you have 40 pieces of B-roll, then you're really going to be able to put together a great news piece. It's all about coverage. Good luck.